podcast. We are here on Friday, the day before the big games this weekend. We're going to be pretty much solely focusing on the Ohio State Michigan game, as that is the biggest game with the biggest amount of playoff and championship potential affectability, I guess, if affectability is even a word. Um, but so we are going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the keys for Michigan winning the game. We're going to be talking about the keys for Ohio State winning the game. And we are going to be talking about a lot of, and also my final prediction for the score. So um, let's get right into it. So for Michigan, I think the best way for them to win the game, um, or I should say, the multiple keys for them to win the game is number one is you have to keep pressure on CJ Stroud. You cannot let him get comfortable within that pocket that the OSU offensive line creates. While I don't think the offensive line is anywhere near the elite level that Michigan's is at, it's still a very quality offensive line. So our defensive line is going to have to get in the backfield, and even if they don't sack CJ Stroud, we have a lot of chances and a lot of opportunity to possibly um, just disrupt him, to force him to make bad passes, things like that. If you let him get momentum and you let that offense ramp up, they're going to hit you with strikes all over the place, and you're not going to be able to stop them the rest of the game, especially in the environment that the Wolverines will be going into on Saturday. That Columbus atmosphere is very hostile to Michigan, and I have been there during the Michigan Ohio State games. It is extremely hostile. I mean, this game is more than a rivalry to just about everybody within the rivalry itself. I mean, there's tradition and history in this rivalry, and it is just it filled to the brim with emotion, and those emotions are going to be running high. So emotions either bring the best out of a player or they bring the worst. So we'll have to see for CJ Stroud in Columbus on tomorrow. So the next thing is Michigan's secondary has to eliminate Marvin Harrison Jr. as a passing option on the more obvious passing downs for Ohio State. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been the largest passing option for Ohio State in the for the past 6 or so weeks. Pretty much the entire season, he's been the largest passing option. With Smith and Jigba out, he has become the number one receiver, and you know last week, I think Julian Fleming, or no, sorry, Emeka Buka, actually proved that he was a very capable receiver. But previous to that, Emeka Buka and Julian Fleming had not really shown for several weeks that they had been a legitimate passing target. I mean, they obviously they're good players, they're quality. Otherwise, they wouldn't be starting for Ohio State. But it was very obvious that C.J. Stroud was going to Marvin Harrison Jr. so often. I mean, I think in barring last week, I think for the last 4 weeks, Emeka Ibuka and Julian Fleming had like 15 touches in total. Like it was not a lot of touches of the football. So we have to so I shouldn't say we Michigan has to eliminate Ohio State as that clear passing option, because once you do that, if you can stop them from going to Marvin Harrison Jr., you force them to go to their other. I don't want to say less talented receivers, but less experienced receivers, and they may drop balls, or you may even force them to go on the ground, which Michigan has a strong run defense. They have the best in the country right now. So forcing them out of their comfort zone and into a position where your strengths defeat their weaknesses is the best option for Michigan to win this game. um, you have Michigan has to dominate the line of scrimmage. So if you can force them to go on the ground, Michigan has to beat this offensive line. This rushing attack is not as good as it has been in years past, and Michigan's rush defense is phenomenal. So Michigan has to be able to stop them. They have to, and by doing that, by to stop them, they have to dominate the line of scrimmage. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very hard, very difficult. But if they can, I think that they'll have a lot of success. Switching to the offensive side of the ball, um, JJ needs to keep his passes accurate. He needs to have the touch that is required of a championship level quarterback. And I have been a big supporter of JJ's this entire season, as well as, I wanted him to start last season. It didn't end up working out that way, but I wanted him to start. So I'm a big fan of JJ. And last week there were great things that I saw in JJ, and there were not so great things that I saw in JJ. But I don't think that all of the passes that were incomplete were his fault. There was a pass to Roman Wilson that was clearly, clearly able to be caught. I mean, it went through his hands. There was another pass to Andrew Anthony, I think in the third quarter, that was also very clearly able to be caught by Andrew Anthony and should have. Gash missed a very close um, pass that could have turned into a touchdown. But on the opposite side, JJ also missed passes. I mean, there were times where a receiver had pretty much a wide open, spots in the end zone that JJ didn't miss, or that I should say that JJ missed. Or there was a moment I think mm, I think it was in the second quarter where JJ rolled out of the pocket because he felt it collapsing on him, and he was right to. But if he had kept his head up and eyes forward, he would have seen like Colston Loveland about 15 yards downfield, and if he had thrown it to him, Colston Loveland probably could have gotten another 20 yards on that play and extended Michigan's drive. So it's really important that JJ keeps his eyes downfield, and when he does pass the ball, he delivers a solid throw. Because without that, Michigan is a one-dimensional team, and they're not gonna win in Columbus as being a one-dimensional team. So now let's go to the opposite side. So OSU, what's their recipe, their keys for winning the game? And this is playing one of them. The first one, and I think the most important, is playing physical. This Michigan team is a dominant physical team. I mean, they have guys lining up, 330 pounds on the offensive line. They're well known for being a brute force team. They're not going to stab you in the heart. They're going to shove the ball down your throat. I mean, this is a Michigan team that, just like every other team Harbaugh has coached, is a power running team. In the past, Michigan has tried to be that stab you in the heart type of player, but against Ohio State, they just can't compete like that. But last year, when they were this run the ball down your throat until you get too beat up to bear to stand up to it. Michigan won and they dominated that game, and part of it was I don't think Ohio State really played physical. Now I think Ohio State has upgraded on defense, but I still have questions on can they go up against a physical team like Michigan because they have not played one with the same physicality, the same ability that Michigan has. So that'll all be answered tomorrow. But the next one, attack that Michigan secondary, attack RJ Moten, attack DJ Turner, attack Makari Page. All of these guys, you just have to attack them with your receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great receiver. Get him the ball. If you throw it up, he is a guy that you throw it up, and there's a very good likelihood that he will come down with it. And it's either he doesn't come down with it, then nobody comes down with it. I mean, it's very rare to see that. So, um, the next one is get favorable man-to-man matchups, and for the most part, I think Ohio State has this in some areas and doesn't have it in others. I think in wide receiver one, I think Michigan's going to have to do a double coverage. Michigan is not a team that likes to double up on players, but I think against a receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr., you have to, because I don't think there's any corner in the country right now that could truly one-on-one defend Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's not a knock on Michigan secondaries or on secondaries in general, but it's just a fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. is just that good of a football player, that he's that skilled that you have to do it. I mean, the only player that I can really think of that would have had a chance if he was still in college is Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner was one of those really special secondary players from the draft last year that went up. I think he went up in the top 10. If I'm not mistaken, he might have even gone in the top 5. I can't remember, but he might have been able to feature up against Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think even he would have struggled. So I think that's really saying something. Number two, they have to establish a run game. So TreVeyon Henderson is I believe is playing, but I don't know if Mayan Williams is going to be playing, but I don't think either of them, if they are playing, are going to be 100%, but they have to establish a run game, because if they don't, they also become a one dimensional team. And a one dimensional team is a team that can be beaten. And it's a team that, Michigan has the players to beat. Now, if Ohio State proves that they're now not just a one dimensional team, but a two dimensional team, then that can be super useful for those third down and 4, third down and 5, spots where, before it might have been, we got to pass this on maybe a slant or a hitch route or something like that, to now we have the option to running the ball. So the next game, or the last key for Ohio State is stop the run game. By God, to beat Michigan, you have to stop the run game. And Illinois did a great job with this last week when they went up to Ann Arbor. Was they did a phenomenal job in the second half of stopping the run game. Um, and yes, part of that is that both Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards were out. But even before Blake Corum was out, you know, there were some points where they did a really good job of stopping the run game. Now, Blake Corum, I still think would have ran 200 plus yards on them if he had been in the rest of the game. But still, I still think that they did the best job that I've seen, from any other team that Michigan has faced this season of stopping the run game. So for Ohio State to win, you have to force Michigan to pass, because that opens up the cracks in Michigan's offense. Um, it also allows your players to get a bit of a breather, because they are not being just pounded every single play. So I think it's really important that Ohio State stops the run game. Now, I want to talk about the players that I think are going to be that are going to play, and the ones that what I think's going on. So nothing has been officially released yet by Michigan, but I'm fairly confident that Blake Corum is going to end up playing. He's one of those guys that even if he's still a little injured, he's going to play. He did the same thing at Ohio State last year. He played, and he made a big contribution to the game. Um, I also think that Donovan Edwards is gonna play. I think these guys were kept out deliberately for the reason that I think they wanted them to rest for the Michigan game. Luke Schoonmaker did not play against Illinois. I think he was also one that I think they wanted to rest, because he's one of Michigan's top receiving targets. And I think also I believe Trevor Keegan, an offensive lineman for Michigan, also did not play in the Illinois game. So I think he's going to be back. Um, I'm not 100% sure if Mike Morris played or not. I think he might have been injured. I think a lot of the guys that didn't play against Illinois are going to be playing this game, because I think either they were just kept out for precautionary reasons, or they just, or Harbaugh was just like, I want to save you for that game because football's a brutal game. It's hard, it's hard on the body. It's why football players can only play for so long. So that's it. I think the predicted outcome for this game in Columbus tomorrow, I think it's going to be 28-24 Michigan. Um, but I would not be, and I'm saying this is an uncomfortable prediction for me because I'm thinking this game could go literally down to the last second. It could go into multiple overtimes. I mean, this is a game that could go into like four overtimes easily, in my opinion, because these are teams that are very, very good. And I think that there's a strong possibility that two Big Ten teams could get in. I mean, when you look at the rankings right now, I think with the fact that the playoff committee is putting LSU ahead of USC is good signs for Michigan. If USC loses to Notre Dame tomorrow, I think that that blows open a chance for two Big Ten teams. I think for this to happen, you'd have to have for two Big Ten teams to make it in, you'd have to have USC lose against Notre Dame, so then they'd be a two-loss team, and then you'd have to have LSU lose in the SEC championship. And I think that that would both of those losses would allow for a Michigan team, a one-loss Michigan team, or a one-loss Ohio State team to get into the final four teams for playoff contention. I think that it would really blow those doors open. So now that we've gotten past the keys for Michigan and the keys for Ohio State winning in my prediction, I want to talk about what it's like as a Michigan fan, as a fan in this rivalry, I should say, because this is pretty. A lot of this is pretty true for um, Ohio State fans as well. I mean, not necessarily my specific experiences, but a lot of the things I'm going to say are, the opposite is very true. This is, Woody Hayes put it really well that this is more than a rivalry; it's a war, because in wars tensions are high, uh, obviously, and emotions are running even higher than the tensions, and that's what it's like in this game. I mean, fights break out in this game. You see players and teams in the locker room or in the halls, chirping at each other a little bit, and talking smack to one another. And there was a game a few years ago, I think, that a Ohio State team got some reason for getting kicked out for unsportsmanlike conduct, or he got ejected for something, and this I think was in Ann Arbor, and he's walking back to the locker room, and he just sticks up both his middle fingers to the stands, and you're just like, what is going on? Oh my God! Like, did he really just do that? And Michigan fans, like to say that they're more classy in how they react to this game particularly. But when it gets down to it, we're all the same. We all want to win. We all want to see our team absolutely destroy the other team. And Michigan, during my lifetime, really, Michigan has only won, I think, this game twice. It has really been dominated by Ohio State. And I remember, I think it was a 2014 win against. It was either 2014 or like 2010 or something like that. I can't remember entirely, uh, but it was an important win. But the the win that I'm always going to remember, and the win that I'm always going to think about, is the win last year. Um, the 42 to 17, I believe, or 27. Sorry, 42 to 27 win. Is the 42 to 27 win last year. That was a game that I think really really started to turn around. Um, it really started to turn around Michigan's. it started to turn around the narrative for Michigan. That Michigan was not just, second best in the country, or in the Big Ten, and second best in the Big Ten East. I mean, this is a game that now is competitive. That when players are looking at, oh, what team in the Big Ten should I go to? Now you're like, Michigan is a legitimate top team target. And I think if they win this game, it could flip the narrative that Ohio State is the best team, or Ohio State is, still on their upwards trajectory. And I think it could flip that to Michigan is now on their upwards trajectory, and Michigan is now the dominant team in the Big Ten and the team to beat. And I think that that's really important. And Michigan has to win here because this is a hostile crowd, and if they can win here at Columbus, they can win anywhere. And it's really important that Michigan get that confidence there, especially when you're feeling 70,000 fans screaming at you how much they hate you or whatever. It's all so important. I'll have some videos playing of last year's game, but it was so much fun to watch that game because you finally felt the relief of 20 years essentially of loss to Ohio State. You finally felt that drift away as a Michigan fan, and now you're just hoping that you can create 20 years of Ohio State losses. Um, so this rivalry has so much history. There's so much history from the '90s. There's so much history with Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes, and how much they stoked the rivalry. It's phenomenal to watch this game, and I don't think that this is going to be a blowout for any team, for either team. I don't believe that that's going to happen. I would be enormously surprised if this ended up being, a 25, 30 point blowout, because both of these teams are really, really good. So, I really hope that Michigan can pull it off, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State also came out narrowly winning. Um, I do think that for two Big Ten teams to get into the playoffs, Ohio State has a much better chance of making it in if they win. If they lose to Ohio State in Columbus, or if they lose to Michigan in Columbus, than if Michigan goes to Columbus and wins, or then if Michigan goes to Columbus and loses. But is dependent on it being a close game, which I have very little doubt that's going to happen. But again, as a Michigan fan, I've been confident about Michigan teams going to Columbus and winning before, and I am not, and I'm always very cautious because I have seen Michigan look good for a little bit and then completely fall flat on their face, and I really hope that it doesn't do like that. And I literally at the game last year, I was just waiting for Michigan to fall flat on their faces once again, and I really only started to believe that we were going to win when it was like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and we had been dominating the entire second half basically. So that's all that I have to say for this week for the Michigan Ohio State game. I think that this is going to be a really fun game to watch. We did talk a little bit about the playoffs, so um, you got a little bit of that in there. The Notre Dame USC game should be really interesting to watch too. So you guys should definitely go check it out if you can. Um, but Auburn and Alabama, I don't think is going to be all that competitive. But that USC Notre Dame game should be really competitive. It has somewhat of a playoff contention uh, um, possibility, to it, but it's really only for USC. And I think Notre Dame has a strong chance of winning because in the past, 4 or 5 weeks, they've developed an offense that we did not see through the first half of the season. It's really fascinating to see Marcus Freeman starting to lead this team, and I think it's possible that next season they're much better than they ever were this season. So as you can see, I am not in the usual area where I usually film. I'm not in my room, but I'm on vacation visiting with family, so this is only going to be about a 25-minute episode, but I thank you guys for watching a lot. I hope you guys enjoy this weekend of great college football games and rivalries, especially that Michigan Ohio State game. I'll be checking back with you on Monday. I'll either be elated or I will be so sad about the game. But it really is going to be it's going to be a great turnout for. It's going to be a great time to watch Michigan and see what happens and things like that. So I hope to see you guys again on Monday. Please leave a like and a comment down below. Please subscribe to the channel if you can. We should be back to a regular Wednesday episode as well on next Wednesday too. So we're gonna be getting back to a normal schedule, even though this week was Thanksgiving, things like that. So I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.